Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis Gianoutsos. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey, the show is called Leadership is Changing, and that title there, when I was recovering from having the tumor removed, this is one of the ideas that popped into my head, and so it was like, wow. And so Leadership is Changing. When I say that title, what does that mean for you?
We've talked a lot already in just the few minutes we've started here about that hunger for growth. And I believe that is one of the hallmarks of successful leaders today is their ability to adapt and grow. My business is not exempt from change. And I think every business today, the first 20 years of their business, things are changing. The dynamics, the economies, the people, the technology, all of that. And that is unique. If you think of leaders of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they were leading companies that were very monolithic. They were very slow to innovate. Innovations came from companies like GE. They came from companies like Hewlett Packard and Bell, or Hewlett Packard and I was going to say Bell, Dell, and like the tech companies. But now those innovations can happen with two guys and some software coming out of wherever, middle of nowhere. So the ability to change as a leader is the most critical function, I believe, in terms of being a successful leader. And leadership is changing is, to me, when I hear that, that's job requirement number one for a leader, is to being able to navigate that and to be comfortable with it. I'm excited for it. I was just on one-on-ones with my engineering team, and we were talking about some technology that we're working that's 2, 3, 4 years out. But this technology is like, I'll share a little bit, disclaimer, this is not happening anytime soon if you're a Design Pickle client. Predictive algorithms to match you with the best creative. That's all done right now by hand. Like, we do a lot of that manually, but there's no reason why we can't look at your brand. We can't look at the past work of a creative. We can't look at this new layer of machine learning inside our technology to do that at scale and do it in a way that sees success in the creative process. To me, that's change. And I'm like stoked. Like, I'm really excited. Other leaders might be, no, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that's obviously not the path that I recommend.
Yeah, and what I really like about that is the fact that there is a lot of people, leaders like that, as you said, they don't want to do it. They want to stay in their comfort zone. We're okay. But then, like in my introduction, if they're not changing quick enough, then they're becoming irrelevant and being left behind. Now, you're talking about 4 years, maybe longer out there in the future, which is fantastic. So you're starting to think about the future, but it starts now. And what I always say, Russ, is that wherever you are today in life, whether it be in a leadership role, whatever you've done, it's based on what you've done in the last 5 years. So what you're doing now is setting yourself up for the future, which is beautiful to see as well. Hey, Paul, the show is called Leadership is Changing. When we mentioned that title of the show, what does that mean for you?
For me, it's of course, because life is changing. But leadership is changing from the old classic Taylor Anglo-Saxon approach to a much more approach where we look at professionals and the leaders are the facilitators. They take care that professionals can do the job. Look in hospitals now with COVID. You can have a manager who is telling all the nurses what to do. But hey, we have on the ICU one nurse on 3 or 4 people in Europe. That means that there is no time for a manager to say anything. So what we do now suddenly is trust that they are the true professionals. And that if we facilitate them in time management, hey, you've been there 20 minutes, come out, 10 minutes rest. Okay, you can do another one. So we start facilitating the professionals in doing their job. That for me is leadership.
Yep.
Facilitating the professional, even if it's a house cleaner. They know what to do. They are the professionals. Otherwise, I would do it myself. But hey, they are the professional. So I facilitate, create the surroundings that they can have their own autonomy, their own responsibility, and do their job. That for me is the new leadership. Instead of the old hierarchy pyramid where the top says what to do to the next level. And then you get the things that when you look up, you see only assholes. And the one at the top said, oh, I see only shitheads. But hey, that's the old version of leadership. Yeah, you can picture it yourself.
Yes.
That's done. But still, I think 60% of the companies are run that way. I come into companies and I see it. And then I say, hey, happiness makes money. And they say, yeah, if they do what I tell them.
Nice.
No, it's the other way around.
Nice. So going from hierarchy leadership to facilitated leadership.
Yeah, in Europe, we call it the Rhineland model. That's the Rhine is a big river coming from Switzerland, Germany to the Netherlands. And it's a broad river.
Yep.
And say, give them space. Let them flow. Create a situation that people can flow, that they have space, that they can do. But hey, still take care of the bridges and all the stuff. Rhineland model, professionals on the horizontal axis and virtual, all the facilitators, the financial guy, human being management instead of human resource management. It's about human beings and then give them the field.
Oh, I love that analogy of the Rhine River. And for listeners, if you haven't been there or haven't seen it, it's amazing. Even if you can Google it or check on YouTube to see the Rhine River, Paul is right. It is very wide, and I love the analogy that you're talking about, giving them that space to be who they are and what they need to do. At the end of the day, it's still a river. At the end of the day, you're still a leader, right?
I sometimes think that the more traditional managers are afraid of losing their power, their control. And for me, it's important that you need to trust people, and trust only comes when you have transparency and truth. If you combine transparency and truth, you will get trust. So what we see, even in Corona times, people are working from home. I, as a leader, have no idea what they are doing. There are companies say, hey, you need to check in on Teams or whatever at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. They close it 15 minutes later. If I tell you, hey, I trust that you're doing your job. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will support you. I will be there. If you need to take 30 minutes off, go ahead. Then I give you trust. And with trust comes responsibility on the other side. So I think because you say, hey, Paul, you can go for a walk for 30 minutes, whatever. Then I think, yeah, but he gave me that trust. Now I have to be honest to him as well. So I'm giving it back. You support me, I will service you. And I think that's the thing we should do. And I think females are far more better in it than males. So we need to shift a little bit in our minds that we go that far, that we give people trust up front.
Yep, brilliant.
And that's for a lawyer who is used to punishment.
Yep. That must have been an amazing transformation for you, or transition, I should say, going from a lawyer to doing what you're doing right now. How was that transition?
Oh, first, it's confusing because you feel unhappy with the role you're playing. And I felt I was playing that role. And I had fun when I went to court and could do my speaker type of stuff, standing in front of the judges and playing. And I thought, that's fun. But when you are in a normal company, you couldn't do it. So I became independent. And then people ask you and say, hey, do you have time to be on stage? So I just started, and then I was in that transition to looking at engagement instead of control and looking how we could help people. So it was fun. And I must say that the final help came from my two coaches from South Africa and New Zealand, Mike and Landy, who really helped me to make it more polished.
Mm.
Because I knew it, but you need someone who helps you to polish it, to make your message more clear. And I think I'm there at the age of 62, so you're never too old to do that transition. But hey, the point is, a lot of people at 50 are seriously brain deaf. They are walking in lines like a machine, and they are doing the stuff the whole day what they did before. And if you step out of, and we say out of your comfort zone, and that's a little bit wild word, but it's true. If you take a next step sideways instead of front, you will see that there is some difference and that you can have a different look. I used walking the Camino in Spain to make that more clear for myself.
Wow.
To make clear what is your purpose in life and what are your core values and what are you going to do with the next 20 years?
Yep.
Because we focus on retirement, but then life begins again in another form.
Yes.
So you need to focus when you're 50 on what am I doing when I'm 70 or 75? Instead of saying, oh, I need another 15 years.
Yep.
I have to.
Yep. The day I remember in Auckland, New Zealand, I know you were here, you and I met. The day that I met you, I don't know if you know the story, is the day before I left my global role and I had started my brand new career. And it was uncomfortable, 50 years of age. And I'm like, here I am. And I got out of that role and go off to do my thing. But of course, a lot of it was around the tumor of the voice and on the vocal cord and all that and coming through that. But you're so right, Paul. That was uncomfortable, but then it became comfortable. And the thing that was really interesting was I found that then the corporate world was the actually not my comfort zone. I was feeling uncomfortable, but I just didn't realize it. Yeah, it's really interesting. Leadership is changing, the title of the show. What does that mean to you? Briefly, what does that mean for you?
Like I told you, my mentor says, Dr. John Maxwell says, leadership is influence. I think for a lot of time, the world has been misinterpreting leadership. We have seen leaders, despite the fact that we've been talking about Hitler, for example, leadership by force, and we have transited from that and said now we have leadership by being democratic leadership where people vote, but still are so many places in the world we have that dictatorship. But I think even in countries where it's called democratic, where we're supposed to have democratic leaders, I believe that there's still leadership by force because you have laws that the government, when they come in and they have the power to change laws and they vote laws that go against about the freedom of people. But I think the power that leaders get, the power should be for serving. But you agree with me, in many countries, the power has been misused. But leadership is changing. It's a wonderful phrase, Dennis, because this is what's happening in the world. What can you see around in the world? What can you see what's happening in the US? What can you see what's happening in Mauritius, for example? What can you see happening everywhere in the world, in Europe? People are taking over, but people are saying no more. We want you to tell us the truth. We want you to be accountable. We want you to, I tell people in my country, what is a government? Because when government comes, they say, we are in power. We are the government. We are the power. We have the power and we are the power. But I tell people, don't forget, a government is your employee. You are the employer because you sent them to take care of the country's affair, financial and others. So they have to be accountable to you, the population, and not the other way around. So leadership is changing for me is that people, maybe the millennials, maybe the Generation Z, that is a new generation that's coming, that are not the generation that will stay silent. I think there is a change of mindset where people are no more standing silent and say, what can we do? They have the power. They are saying today, no, we are the power.
Yep.
We are the country. We are the population. We are the government. You are taking care of that. And we've sent you there. And we pay you for that. But we don't pay you to corrupt. We don't pay you to do all these things that you are doing. We pay you to govern, to take the people's money and to make the country progress and to prepare for the future. So I think leadership is changing in the sense that leadership in the past was only those people who are in power, but people are understanding today that leadership is about everything. Leadership, the true leadership, is self-leadership. It's leadership, each and every human being, every one of you, you're a leader. And I think people are starting to understand that. And this is why more and more people are going on the road to express themselves, to say, we are also leaders and we also lead. And this is what we are going to do.
Yep, people are becoming very vocal, and they're wanting to be A, heard, and two, the B, they want to be also make sure people are transparent, being authentic and being vulnerable as well. And it certainly is out there for sure. But talking about role models, who's your favorite leader? Now, this person could be alive or from history. So who's your favorite leader and why?
If I went for all time, then 100% sure it is Jesus. I know that he's the greatest leader of all time. And I think that was because he didn't judge people, but he still loved them enough to tell them the truth. So here you have this guy who never ventured more than 100 miles from his hometown. There was no social media. He changed the globe more than anyone else ever have. And those two foundations of love and truth are very powerful. And that's why those are the two foundations of my executive coaching business today. Will I love them enough to say something? And as a result of that, you say, what year is it? 2021. Based on what? That goes back in history to this guy who lived in the Middle East, who cared about people and would tell them the truth, and it changed the world. So that's in history, probably modern day. Lots that I could name, two that come to mind right off. Jamie Dimon, the head of Chase Banks. I really like him, and you don't hear him mentioned much, but he's a guy who came out and said, hey, Bitcoin's a fraud, don't go there. And then all of a sudden, a year later, I was 100% wrong. Here's why. We are going to start embracing this, and this was my mistake, and I held us back from doing better sooner. He was also very transparent and forthcoming about some medical conditions he had. And so I love that kind of transparency, vulnerability. I think we need more of that in our leadership. And again, I can name a lot. Yeah, one of those, one of my business partners, a guy named Hans Struzina. And Hans was a U.S. Olympic athlete, so top of his game, right? In the last Olympics, he was rowing for the United States, favorite to win the gold medal, goes to Brazil, and he comes in fourth place and misses a medal. Huge personal failure. And so he comes back. What he's done is he has said, man, that hurt so bad. What did I learn about myself, and what have I learned about others, and how can I help people to shift their mindset when they go through failure? And I just think this guy is such a stud. I love the dude. And so people like that are all over. If you'll open your eyes and look for them, you have heroes all over. And I enjoy just being part of their lives when I have that opportunity.
Yeah, what an awesome, it must have been very hard for him, but what an awesome platform to learn, to move on and learn from our failures, to come back stronger, to come back a more effective leader, and just to move that mindset shift is amazing.
Yeah, his podcast is killing it, where he talks about mindset shift all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a great guy.
Excellent. Hey, the show is called Leadership is Changing. And when I say that title, what does that mean for you?
Certainly, I know that is more true than ever, because if you think of it this way, the entire world is changing right now, faster today than it ever has in history. And it will never change this slowly again. So just that fact, if you add to that how different millennials are from baby boomers, and that's one of the areas in my coaching practice, I help my clients understand that and crush it in that area. Those are skills that you have to have today as a leader that you didn't have to have during the top-down leadership of the past. And leadership is changing every single day. We're never going to stay up with all the technologies, but if we can lead with caring about the other person, telling them the truth, and making good decisions, we're going to win.
Excellent. Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.